So, how do we handle our relationship with money? I mean, we live in a world that's always telling us to want more, right? It feels like such a modern problem, but what if the answer is actually hiding in a 2,000-year-old text? Well, today, we're going to unpack some incredibly relevant wisdom on wealth, consumption, and real freedom, all from a classic Buddhist sutra. And here it is. This is our source for today's explainer, the Discourse on Subduing Attachments. It was translated from Sanskrit into Chinese way back in the 3rd century. And it's actually a pretty short but really powerful dialogue that gives us this timeless framework for thinking about, well, our financial and material lives.
All right, so here's our game plan. We'll start with the question that kicks the whole thing off. Then we'll get into the 3 keys to wealth, see how they build an ethical ladder, find out what the pinnacle of practice looks like, and wrap it all up with a really cool analogy about milk and ghee.
Okay, let's set the scene. We're in ancient India. A guy named Anāthapiṇḍika, who was super wealthy and famously generous, by the way, goes to see the Buddha. But he's not there to talk about some deep philosophical puzzle. Nope, he has a really practical, down-to-earth question about everyday life. And this is what he asks. In this world, how many ways are there for us to master our attachments? Think about that for a second. This isn't some abstract idea. He's talking about that very real, very powerful pull that money and stuff have on all of us. I mean, that's a question that could have been asked yesterday, right? So the key phrase here is fuyin. Now, if you translate it literally, you might get something like subduing lust, which sounds a bit intense. But in the context of this whole conversation, it's much broader. It's really asking, how do we get a handle on those powerful cravings and attachments that are the engine behind our financial behavior? And the Buddha's answer? It's not a simple yes or no. It's way more interesting than that. He basically hands over this powerful tool for analyzing our lives. He says you can understand any relationship with wealth just by looking at 3 key things. And this table lays it all out beautifully. So we've got 3 variables. First up is acquisition. Pretty simple. Did you get your wealth lawfully or unlawfully? Then we have use. Are you using it just for yourself and your family, or are you being generous with it? And finally, the big one, mindset. Are you attached to it or are you non-attached? These 3 questions, they are the foundation for everything that follows. So using these 3 keys, the Buddha then describes 10 different kinds of people. But get this, it's not just a random list. He lays it out like an ethical ladder. It's a clear progression, taking us from the most harmful way of dealing with wealth all the way up to the most enlightened. Okay, so let's start at the very bottom of that ladder. The absolute worst practice, that's on the left. Getting wealth unlawfully and then just hoarding it for yourself. But now, look at the right. This is one step up. This person also gets their money unlawfully, but, and this is a big but, they use it to take care of their family. So, see? The source is still a problem, but how they're using it is already an ethical step in the right direction. This really shows that we're not talking about a simple black or white, good or bad system. It's a whole spectrum of behavior. The Buddha's laying out this gradual path. You move from the worst practices through these intermediate stages, like maybe you're earning lawfully, but you're still pretty attached and selfish, all the way up to the best practices at the top. And the text is super clear about this. Just earning an honest living and taking care of your family, that's praised. That's a good, solid, respectable place to be on this ladder. But the Buddha is pointing to something even higher. Something even more fulfilling. It's not the end of the journey. So what's at the very top? What does the pinnacle of this practice actually look like? What is the most enlightened relationship you can have with wealth, according to this text? Well, the ultimate combination starts with the best of the first 2 keys. First, you've got to acquire your wealth lawfully. That's non-negotiable. Second, you use it generously, for everyone, not just yourself. But there's one final crucial ingredient that changes everything. And that is a mind that's free from attachment. This is the game changer. You can do all the right things on the outside, earn honestly, give generously, but the real mastery, the final stage, is all internal. It's all about your mind's relationship to the very wealth you're using. And this quote from the text just nails it. The goal is to be not stained by it, not attached to it. It's not about rejecting money or becoming an ascetic. No way. It's about using it skillfully without letting it own you. It's about seeing that wealth can be a trap, a danger, but still being able to use it for good, all while knowing you could let it go in a heartbeat. Now, to tie this all together and make this idea of inner refinement really clear, the Buddha finishes with this beautiful, simple analogy from everyday life, and it just perfectly captures the whole journey. He compares our ethical journey to the process of refining milk. You start with plain old milk, then it's refined into curds, then ghee, butter, and finally, the purest form, clarified butter. The idea is that our relationship with wealth can be refined in exactly the same way. Each step makes it more potent, more valuable. And here's the punchline. The Buddha says, just as this final product is the most unsurpassed, so is this way of mastering attachment. A relationship with wealth that is lawful, generous, and non-attached. That is the clarified butter. That's the most refined, the most supreme way of living. That's the top of the ladder. So, what are the big takeaways here? Well, first, wealth is just a tool. Its real value is in how you use it. Second, your ethical standing isn't just about your actions, how you get and spend money, it's also about your mindset. Third, true mastery isn't about how much you have, it's about using wealth generously without being controlled by it. And maybe most importantly, this is a journey of refinement. It's not about being perfect overnight. And that really leaves us with one last thought. This 2,000-year-old text gives us a kind of map. This ethical ladder based on how we get our money, how we use it, and how we think about it. So the question it leaves for all of us is a pretty simple one. When you look at your own life, where are you standing on that ladder today?